Hey everyone, this is Darcy with Preserving My Sanity, coming at you with an episode of What's in Your Fridge. Today I am going to talk about garden vegetables. It's a nice sunny day actually without any wind, so I thought I'd just come sit by the garden here for a minute. So as you come on, say hi, and if you have any garden vegetables that you're struggling to use up, and want any suggestions, feel free to tell me about them in the comments, even if you're watching the replay, because I'll be checking for those here over the next couple of days, and I'm happy to help however I can. So actually, here in the last couple of months, I've written a couple of guest blog posts for a few different websites, and the focus has sort of been how to use fresh produce without having to actually preserve it. So I've been talking a lot about that in those posts, and so I thought I'd kind of talk about that with you guys today for just a few minutes. You know, if you read my blog, that I do preserve quite a bit of food. I do a lot of dehydrating, and I do water bath canning and pressure canning, some salt preserving, some fermenting. Anyway, you know, this summer I'm actually not really planning to can quite as much because I have a lot of stuff left from last year, and so I'm just kind of, we're just trying to eat a lot of it, and you know, maybe give some to friends, and I'm sure I'll do some canning, but I thought I'd just share some of my favorite ways to use some of those vegetables with you guys, for those who don't want to mess around with preserving it. So first of all, cucumbers. You know, a lot of people grow cucumbers and like to make pickles. If you don't want to can pickles, you can really easily make refrigerator pickles. So, you know, it's a pretty simple brine. It's, you know, vinegar, water, sugar if you want sweet pickles. You know, go ahead and Google some recipes so you get the ratio right, but you can just do refrigerator pickles, add your dill in there if you want, hot peppers if you want. You know, and make whatever kind of pickles you want really easily by just mixing them all up and putting them in the fridge. Similar to that, we make a lot of cucumber salad, which is kind of the same idea as a refrigerator pickle, but it's basically like your sliced cucumbers and vinegar and sugar and salt and pepper, and that's usually all I do actually. It makes, oh, and some sliced onion. That makes a really simple cucumber salad. One thing that my sister did that was really cool over the weekend, she made some appetizers, and they're basically like cucumber slices, and then you put hummus on the cucumber slices and a little bit of cherry tomato, and then you top it with balsamic vinegar and feta cheese. So that's a really good fun way to use some cucumber slices too. If we talk about green beans for a minute, I don't know about you guys, but our green beans are actually just starting to produce. So one thing I like to do with green beans, if I'm not going to can them, is basically steam them, and I like to steam them until they're tender, and then I like to put them in a pan with some butter or oil or bacon grease, if we're being bad, and saute them, so it gives them a little bit more texture than just having, you know, sauteed beans. So that's one thing we like to do with green beans. You can also make like refrigerator, you can make like dill pickle beans. I know a lot of people do that. So if you want to do like an easy preserving project, you can pickle green beans. If you actually want to if you want to can green beans just to eat like for dinner, then you have to pressure can them. Some people do freeze them though. If you do freeze them, I'd recommend cooking them first. Some people blanch them and freeze them. We actually prefer them if we cook them all the way and then freeze them that way. But cabbage is another thing. We're just starting to get a little bit of cabbage. One thing I like to do with cabbage, of course, is make sauerkraut. But if you don't want to ferment it, you can take cabbage, and I like to saute that too. So again, that's good with bacon. You know, I think everything's good with bacon, but this weekend I made some fried cabbage where I just put a little bit of bacon grease in the pan and cooked the cabbage and put like salt and pepper on it. And then when it was towards getting done, I added some sliced onion, and then I added some beer actually to it. turn it down, put the lid on, and just let it kind of steam down all the way. That's a really good way to make cabbage. Of course, you can make coleslaw too. Cabbage is also really easy to cook and freeze if you can't eat it all right now. Hot peppers is something that we eat a ton of around here. We have all kinds of hot pepper plants, and we've been just kind of cutting them up raw on stuff because we really like them. You can also just cook a bunch and have them in the fridge to add to things. They also freeze really well if you just take the core off of a hot pepper and take the stem off the hot pepper and just take the inside core out, and then just freeze it like in a gallon Ziploc bag. I always freeze a lot of garden peppers every year, and then we cook with them throughout the winter and spring, so that's kind of handy too. You don't have to blanch them or anything, you can just freeze them just like they are. We also grow quite a few herbs in our garden, so like just last night actually I was dehydrating some Thai basil. I've also dehydrated oregano and parsley so far. It's really handy to have throughout the year for your cooking. If you don't have a dehydrator, if your oven goes to a low enough temperature, you can actually dehydrate them in the oven. But herbs should be preserved at a pretty low temperature, like I think it's 105. So most ovens don't go that low. And you can actually air dry them instead if you wanted to. So that's what I did before I had the dehydrator I have now. I used to just kind of hang them in bunches from a hook on my wall and let them air dry that way. So that's an option for you too. Another thing you can do with herbs is you can make pesto. So basil pesto is really popular. I know some people also make parsley pesto. So you just basically take your food processor and put the herb in there, mix it with some olive oil, some salt, other seasonings if you want, some nuts. A lot of people use pine nuts. You can also use walnuts. That's usually what I use. And then you just kind of puree it all up, and then you can use the pesto with pasta or salad dressing, or whatever you want that way. We also grow a lot of eggplant. So our favorite thing to do with eggplant is to slice it, and we make eggplant parmesan. So you basically just slice it, dip it in egg mixture, and my chickens are making a bunch of noise over there. Dip it in egg mixture and panko breadcrumbs and Parmesan cheese mixture, and then you fry it in olive oil, and then you layer it in a pan with spaghetti sauce. We like to make that in big batches, and then we actually freeze it in like dinner-sized portions. We also make a lot of baba ganoush with our eggplant, which is sort of like an eggplant hummus. You puree the eggplant after you roast it. You roast it, you peel it, and then you puree it. You add garlic, tahini, salt, pepper, lemon juice. It's a pretty basic recipe too, but that's really good on bread with tomatoes. It's really good with pasta. It's really good, like sometimes we'll make a vegetable pizza and use it as the pizza sauce. So that's kind of a fun thing to do with eggplant too. And then a really easy thing to do with eggplant actually is to just slice it up and marinate it in like an Italian dressing mix, and then you can grill it. Whether you grill it on like a flat top griddle or an actual grill, it can kind of burn easy on the grill, but it's really good done that way too. Tomatoes are of course a favorite. We make a lot of tomato salad, which is really easy. Again, diced tomatoes that are fresh. Just mix them with a little bit of sugar, a little bit of balsamic vinegar, some diced onion, salt and pepper, and it's a lot of people call that bruschetta too. So bruschetta tomato salad, whatever you want to call it, it's really easy and good. We actually just eat sliced tomatoes here. Sometimes for dinner we'll just have a sliced tomato on the side of whatever we're eating. You can make BLTs, you can make burgers with nice big fresh tomato slices. Usually we can a big batch of tomato pasta sauce and a big batch of salsa. So as our tomatoes ripen, we just freeze them whole in the freezer. So you can do that, and then when you have enough for a big batch of something, just take them all out to thaw, and then you can peel them and process them that way. So we usually end up with a lot of whole tomatoes in the freezer too before we can a big batch of something. So that's tomatoes. And then I just wanted to mention too for a minute, Swiss chard, or kale or collard greens or any of those greens that you have. We picked a bunch of Swiss chard yesterday, and last night I actually sauteed it all in a pan with some olive oil and a little bit of water. After it cooked for a few minutes, I added a little bit of water, just put salt and pepper and garlic on it, garlic powder, and then we just keep it in the fridge for like a week or two and just eat it in our meals. So, you know, whether we're gonna have a pizza or a pasta dish or, you know, whatever, Swiss chard is similar to spinach kind of, so anything that would be good with spinach is good with that cooked Swiss chard. It's good in eggs. So we just kind of keep that in the fridge and eat it as we can. It also freezes really well too. I end up making spinach dip pretty often, and for the spinach dip we use the Swiss chard that we have frozen from the garden. Kale kind of works the same way. You know, you can cook it and cook a big batch of it. It helps preserve the nutrients, and then you can just keep it in the fridge to use, you know, as you can sneak it into meals, you can get more vegetables in your diet. So does anybody have anything in the garden that you're having trouble finding a way to use it, or any tips that you'd like me to share? I kind of just covered the stuff that we grow the most of, that we like the most. We have other things too. I mean, we grow broccoli and cauliflower and Brussels sprouts and stuff, but I mean, as that stuff is ready, we pretty much just cook it and eat it. So if you think of anything else you want me to share with you, just ask in the comments. I'm gonna wrap this up for now. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll talk to you guys next time. Have a good day.